In lesson three, what we're looking at is something else that makes America great. We've talked about natural resources and a large population and inventions and laissez-faire economics and railroads, and now we're going to add to it the growth of big business. Because when big business emerges in America during the Second Industrial Revolution, it comes with so many changes. And ultimately, we have to answer a question first before we even take a look at the positive changes these big businesses cause. And that's, how do you become big? And the secret to becoming a big business lies in issuing or selling stock. So you sell stock to people. And what happens when you sell stock to people is you give them a part of your company. Originally, imagine you owning a company, just you, and you want to raise money so that you can grow your company. What happens is you can find someone to buy into your company, and you can say, all right, you can have a piece of my company. I'll give you half of my company. You give me $10 for half of my company. And now there are 2 shares of stock for your company. And you can divide it up as many times as you want. You can say, well, I'm going to sell 2 more shares of my company to 2 other people. Now there's 4. And every time you sell the stock, you're going to sell it for a certain amount of money. And you can use that money in order to improve and invest and grow your business. More workers, you can invest in technology, you can increase efficiency. And when you do this, when your business becomes really, really big, it does a couple things. First, it spreads out the risk because there's so many different owners of your company. It's not just you that might be hurt if the company fails. All of these different little people will be hurt, not just you. So it's kind of like the difference between one big cut on your body and then taking that cut and giving a little piece of it to another person and another person and another person. So all you have left is just one little piece of that cut. The other thing that'll happen is called an economy of scale. And the idea with an economy of scale is that when you get so big, you're able to lower your costs and increase your production because you're able to buy things in bulk. You can buy more supplies than anyone else. You can buy the biggest factory. And by buying all these things in bulk, your costs will go down. And that should help your business become bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't want you to think that big businesses are perfect. They still have costs. There are different types of costs in business. There is a fixed cost. A fixed cost never moves. It's fixed. It's always there. A fixed cost is something that even if you're not operating, you're going to pay, like rent. Even if your factory's closed at night, you're still paying rent for that factory. It could be any of those kinds of things, like maybe it's a loan that you took out from a bank to do business. But whether or not your factory is up and running and making you money, it doesn't matter. You still owe the bank the loan. It's a fixed cost. It's fixed. Think about it kind of like, a little dog. When you take a dog into the vet to get fixed, it's permanent. Okay? The other kind of cost is an operating cost. And that's a cost that you get when you are operating only. So when your factory is actually running, an operating cost might be something like electricity, because that's when your factory is up and running. Another operating cost might be what you pay your employees. Think about like a McDonald's. When McDonald's is closed, they're not paying anyone to work there. But when it's open, you have to pay people. It's operating. That's an operating cost. All of this means, though, that a big business, because it operates on an economy of scale, it's really big, its scale, its size is really big. That means that a big business is going to be able to have lower costs because it can buy everything in bulk. So when things aren't going really well, that means the bigger business is going to be able to compete more against a smaller business. Another way of thinking of it, you have 2 different companies. One, like a McDonald's. The other, let's say it's a little diner that is in your town. Maybe it's the 83 diner. Well, in tough times, McDonald's is so huge it has lower costs. That means that when things are rough, McDonald's is going to do better. The 83 Diner, it's going to be really hard to compete because its costs are so high. So when things are bad, the 83 Diner is going to really feel the pinch. And they may even be forced out of business because they can't lower their costs like a big business. Now, there are two primary ways that you're able to create a big business. There's a couple of others, but there's two really big ones that we'll talk about here first. The first is called vertical integration. And I know that's a strange word, and we'll break it down for you in class. Don't worry. And the first business that really becomes vertically integrated is Andrew Carnegie's Carnegie Steel. And what he does is he starts working out in a clothing factory, and then he moves to a railroad, and then he opens up a steel mill, and he wants to take this mine, this iron mine and steel mine that he has near Pittsburgh, and he wants to grow it out into an ever larger company. So he starts to look at all the different things that go into a steel company, right? You have the iron ore to make the steel, and you need limestone, you need coal, you need transportation, you need a factory to make it all. What Carnegie says is, well, why do I want to pay all these different companies for the products I need to make my steel? What if I buy the coal mine and the limestone and the coal and the iron and the shipping companies and the actual factory to make the steel? If I own the whole operation from start to finish, I can control the cost more than if I have to pay someone else for all of these individual things. That's going to allow me to lower the price of my steel so people will buy it from me and not my competitor. That's going to make me a big business. And that's vertical integration, because you own everything from start to finish, from bottom to top, from top to bottom. You own it all. And that's actually where that phrase from top to bottom comes. Like, oh man, you got all of that from top to bottom. That means that you own and control every step in making or doing that thing. Another good example of this, a second way to grow a big business, a little bit different. It's called horizontal integration. I want you to think of the horizon line that you see off in the distance, the horizon. The horizontal integration comes when a business owner says, you know, this is a really profitable type of business. I'm going to buy up and control every single business that does this thing. So maybe you want to buy up and control every single grocery store. Well, if that's the case, then you have a complete monopoly, total control of the industry of grocery stores. You can charge whatever you want. That's really dangerous. See, if you have complete control of every single kind of grocery store, everyone has to go to you for their groceries. So you can charge whatever you want. When you combine lots of different companies that do the same kind of business into one huge business, that's horizontal integration. A great example of this is a guy named John Rockefeller, and he owns a company called Standard Oil. And he refines oil. He takes the stuff that comes out of the ground, and his refinery turns that oil coming out of the ground into gasoline and kerosene and all the other different products that we use. Well, John Rockefeller realized that by 1880, if he controls 90% of all of the oil refining in America, he can pretty much charge whatever he wants for oil. Now, you can imagine that this gets kind of crazy, right? If you're Carnegie Steel and you sell more steel than anyone because the prices are so low, or if you're John Rockefeller and have a monopoly on refining oil because you control all the oil refineries, that this might make people worried and upset that you can charge whatever you want. So people start to look for ways to outlaw these monopolies, and they actually do. They actually outlaw these monopolies because Americans are afraid of them, right? Because you can charge whatever you want. So when states start to outlaw these monopolies, the businesses try to create a new kind of organization to continue to get big. They call it a trust. In a trust, companies that are, maybe they're small, maybe they're big, what they do is they get together and they say, well, this company and this company and this company and this company, they all get together and they say, we're gonna cooperate. We're gonna share our resources. What we'll be able to do is set the price for something that everyone then, no matter who you are or what company you go to, you'll have to buy it at the price we set. So imagine it like a gas station. You've got Sheetz on this corner, a Rutter's on this corner, you've got a Sunoco, and you've got an Exxon. Four corners, four gas stations. They're going to form a trust. And they're still separate companies. It's still Exxon and Sheetz and Rutter's. It's still, it's all the different companies, but they agree to each charge the same exact thing for gas. And then they share the profits with everyone. So you're still controlling the market. You still have a monopoly, but it's not one giant company doing it anymore. It's all the companies working together, cooperating to reduce competition, and everyone makes a profit. When states start to look at this and say, well, that's not fair either, other people come up with a new idea to keep businesses getting bigger than ever. They call them holding companies. And I want you to think about it like a big bag of groceries. You have the bread, the milk, the orange juice, delicious things, all delicious foods you love to eat. By themselves, they're great. But then you have this plastic bag. You don't actually eat the plastic bag, right? It's not actually the grocery, but it's the plastic bag that carries all of those groceries to your table. It's that plastic bag which lets you enjoy all of that food that you love. The plastic bag is the holding company. It's a company that doesn't produce anything. It's just a plastic bag. You can't eat it, right? It's not a grocery. But a holding company controls all of the smaller companies inside the bag. Think about it like this. Another way to kind of imagine this. You have a handful of marbles. Each marble is a different company that you own. And it could do anything.